Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Legacy Hacks podcast. Jack Carlson here with Tyler McCart. And yeah, we're excited today to dive into a story that we've discussed already. We've kind of done a compare and contrast the Rockefeller family, who preserved wealth for generations, and then the Vanderbilt family, who had more of a consumer mindset and lost out on a lot of wealth. But there is a redemptive aspect to the Vanderbilt story that we want to zoom in on and yeah, get some legacy principles and encouragement from. So Tyler is going to unpack that story further for us today. Yeah, tell us a little about what you researched and learned around the Vanderbilts and one Biltmore Estate.
The Biltmore Estate, yes. So just like Jack was talking about, guys. So yeah, and Jack, I appreciate it too. You know, my origin story with infinite banking and family banking really actually starts with me actually going to the Biltmore Estate in
Oh wow.
2021. Okay. Um, it was right after my dad had passed away. I needed to actually get away. We're about 3 months removed from my dad's passing, and I just told my wife, sweetheart, I just need to get away for a weekend or so, long weekend. Can you find something? Let's go somewhere. And she suggested the Biltmore, and I'd never been to the Biltmore, and it's in
Hmm.
Asheville, North Carolina. So I go there, and I'm surrounded by this huge estate. Okay. And I'll get into a little bit of the details and the
Peek
history
a
behind
glimpse for
that.
our viewers here.
What's that?
We'll give our viewers a little glimpse of what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a beautiful estate. I mean, if you've never seen the Biltmore, hello, hello, hello. It's 250 rooms that are in this house. I think it's probably the largest estate and house still in America, or one of them. Okay.
Wow.
Um, but anyway, just kind of going back, yeah. So it's all this history around me, and you can go inside the house and so forth. Well, I I was thinking about it just the other day, and I know that because when you follow my story, the first thing that I got introduced to was how the Vanderbilts lost everything, but how the Rockefellers had preserved their wealth.
Hmm.
And um, which is still true, but at the same time, I knew there was something about this Biltmore estate because it's still actually in the family, even though it was started by a Vanderbilt, but it's part of their legacy, but still not 100%. And here's kind of the story. Okay, so here we go. You ready, Jack? You strapped
Let's
in?
do it. Yes.
I love stories. You can just learn so much from stories. That's why we love telling stories, guys.
Yeah, and highlight them on this channel amidst deeper dives we do into the mechanics of this strategy. This is more of a zoom out. How has this played out in a prominent American family?
Yeah, 100%. So all right, so here we go. George Washington Vanderbilt, okay? He was the guy that was the grandson of Cornelius Vanderbilt. So the gentleman that actually took the empire to and created this monstrosity, and then his dad, George's dad, Henry, took over Cornelius's basically empire and grew it even more. Okay, actually he doubled it, as we've talked about in this whole entire channel. Well, George, the grandson, and he was actually one of 12. He was the baby, and he didn't get the empire. He didn't get the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. But what he did get is he got a fraction. There's been some sources that say he got an eighth of the wealth, or he got 1/12 of the wealth. I mean, there's a lot of different things. I'm not going to, he got
Yeah.
enough. Well, he wasn't all about George wasn't all about being this industrious businessman tycoon that his father and his grandfather were. He was more kind of into the arts and architecture, and hence the house that he wound up actually building and really taking that project and making a beautiful, estate from that. Well, he married a young lady named Edith. Okay, now Edith, I'll tell you a quick little story about Edith. Edith's very important to this story. All right. So Edith actually was born in France. I believe her mom and dad passed away early in her childhood. I think maybe she might have been a teenager when both parents had passed away. And so
Hmm.
she was raised by some guardians and some relatives during her lifetime. And then she met George sometime during that whole entire stint. Well, the tragic thing that happened after George had built this huge home that was actually completed in 1895, the sad part was in 1914, George actually unexpectedly passed away in his home. So he left Edith, and at the time when he passed, he was 41. Again, George was 51. And number one, it was a massive estate. It was 125,000 acres, Jack, the estate. Okay.
Like as
It's
big
like,
as our country. I have no concept of how big that is.
I mean, just getting your head wrapped around 125,000 acres over in North Carolina, okay, because that's where the Biltmore's at.
Hmm.
And you could imagine that there's this huge, enormous operating cost, okay, just
Yeah.
to maintain this thing. So you got this huge overhead. On top of that, you got property taxes. I mean, the government still wants its piece. Gotta love the
Never gonna
government.
change.
Right. Well, he also, both Edith and George had a daughter. And at the time of his death, his daughter, she was 14. Her name was Cornelia. All right. And Edith, the wife, had to make a big decision because of all this overhead, and there was not a whole lot of money left. She made a very big decision that really kind of helped get the estate, or this beautiful home and what they had, to kind of preserve it. And sold she sold, I believe I've got the number here. Hang on, what was the number? It was 87,000 acres to the federal government, which is now Pisgah National Park. Okay, so
Hmm.
it's up in North Carolina. So 87,000 acres was sold for about $400,000. Now, back then, that was significant, still significant, but it equates to now about 12 to 13 million dollars. Well, that sale obviously helped lower the taxes. Number
Yeah.
one, stabilize the finances, and obviously gave her some breathing room, which
Hmm.
she needed that. But she didn't stop there. This is the other part, what she did. There was a radical decision, had never been done before. She took an asset that was there, because at that time when she sold off those 87,000 acres, I think, well, I guess she sold off other tracts as well, but the big one was that right there, because now the estate sits on about 88,000 acres, which is still a fairly big estate. Okay.
Sounds like enough space.
Yeah, enough space. You can go and hunt and fish and do what you want to do. Well, she made this radical decision during the Depression, actually in 1930. And that decision was she actually opened up her private home, the Biltmore, to paying visitors that wanted to see inside the
Hmm.
actual. So she turned it into a business. And that's a huge shift from just having an inheritance mindset to creating this enterprise. And so I
Hmm.
think that's a big shift as far as mindset right there. Then her daughter inherited, this estate, and the daughter's Cornelius's husband. I don't have his name down. I probably should have. I can't remember if it was Cecil. I think it might be Cecil. Anyway, he wound up actually coming in, and those two right there took that estate and continued that mindset of business and developed an agriculture around the estate, launching a winery that's
Mm.
now one of the most visited in the country. They built hotels on the property and really leaned in hard on hospitality and tourism. And
Yeah.
so today, which is now a success story, that Biltmore Estate, which was once a Vanderbilt, thing, is still now a thriving enterprise, in the cozy hills of North Carolina. And so I I wanted to bring that to light today that yeah, I think our legacies can be so fragile, okay? It can be lost in one generation, but it takes someone with leadership, Jack, to kind of put their ego down to be able to sustain what that legacy is. And someone in the family has to do that and get buy-in from everybody else. And you know, that's just kind of that story right there that I just wanted us to kind of take in
Hmm.
about Edith and about Cornelia and how that it's still today I mean it's still a thriving business out there today. I mean,
Yeah.
you showed the website just now. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure, like, I don't know how revolutionary it would have been. It's almost like Airbnb my house. But it's this, yeah, beautiful, well done architecture that is from this family that is known in American history. I'm sure that was not only like necessary, but like innovative too. So yeah, that's and it's cool that it came from, yeah, the wife who married in. Feel like that's another thread of it that's like, oh yeah, you had this artist who built this thing, but didn't really know how to best utilize it or like maintain how big it was. So yeah, a lot of different parts of that story that are um, yeah, important to that family history, but also yeah, our country's history with the national forest now. And yeah, and it's cool that I didn't realize that you visited it in
Yep.
21 amidst your journey of yeah, into family legacy and infinite banking.
Yeah, I've gone there now twice since 2021. And I mean it's a great place to visit. So, I mean it's kind of a resort, type feel to it.
Hmm.
They've got two different hotels on the property. Um, the family, because it's 8,000 acres, the family actually still lives on the property,
Hmm.
but you don't know there's like there's got to be like secret, ways to get onto the property. But that family, I think now they're into from if you trace it back to Cecil and Cornelia, the daughter of George. I think they're now into their fourth generation of maintaining this business that they have. And
Oh.
I just kind of going back to just some thoughts that I had, on this is, sometimes with a business or with life, you got to drop back and punt. Sometimes you've got to shrink a little bit to survive, right?
Hmm.
And that takes you kind of swallowing your pride a little bit. And because up until that point, Edith, they talk about this at on the tours they have, but Edith was in the kind of aristocrat world of that era, all right? And
Hmm.
so they had many parties and were very well known, uh, throughout a lot of bigger families and successful people. So, she really had to swallow her pride to be able to keep this, moving forward, and
Yep.
that's a big deal. I think that
Hmm.
I think that's a thing that is a good takeaway. And the other one that I feel like I really want to kind of call out is just that stewardship mindset that we talk
Hmm.
about on our channel so much. Uh, stewardship can be quiet,
Hmm.
you know, but it has to be decisive. And the kind of a hero to legacy is often the quiet steward
Hmm.
that's just you know, hey, I see this whole picture right here. I see this where it can continue on, and I don't own this. I'm just a steward of it, and I need to preserve this and maintain it and grow it, okay? So it goes beyond me. And, yeah, I think it's just so important, Jack, to call that out.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta, I mean, it's risk taking and faith ultimately, like to see, I don't know, what could be in the future. And and yeah, like if that trajectory is we're not gonna last, like making that pivot to be sustainable and to continue being the one who is capable enough to steward what you've received.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember a story I think from family teams, Jeremy Pryor and Jeff Bethke over there talking about like one of them got this big property early in uh their family life and it was too big. They had little kids, couldn't help with like maintaining the yard or things like that, and there were parts of the property that were just like not falling into disrepair, but getting overgrown and not being stewarded well. And it's like, we're not ready for this. Um, and yeah, sometimes well, if you marry into the Vanderbilt family, you're probably definitely not going to be ready. But like you said, you got to be able to make decisions and act, yeah, like confidently to keep what's there. So. Yeah, really great principles. Thanks for pulling that out of the woodwork. I didn't even know about that thread of their story. So appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing that with me and our audience. Any last words before we wrap for this episode?
No, I think it's just like we said before, it's a redemptive story.
Hmm.
And, you know, even though the Vanderbilt fortune is faded away, which was a huge fortune, you know, the Biltmore survived because someone chose stewardship over pride.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, I think that's a cool redemptive story right there of what Edith did and then her daughter and her husband did to take what was given to them and you know move forward. And I think that for an infinite banking, for family banking, you know we've got to keep that at the forefront and not let our pride get in the way of us stewarding what we have and what we've been blessed with because
Mm-hmm.
we're really not, I mean, I know I'm kind of going off on this, Jack, but, we're really not owners. We're just stewards of what God has blessed us with. Um,
Hmm.
God gave, someone on this that might be watching, God might have blessed you with a great business that produces, you know, $10 million in revenue every year, and that's amazing, and that's a blessing. But at the end of the day, God gave you the ability to think that through. God gave you the power to get that wealth. God gave you the power to think through that. God gave you those opportunities, and so really, you're just the steward of all that. And Edith and Cornelia, decided to choose stewardship over, trying to preserve their image and their inheritance and so forth like that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's just my thoughts right there.
Love it. Great insights and summary. Thank you, Tyler. And thank you for tuning in today, Legacy Hacks listeners. We'll drop our Calendly links in the description below if you'd like to grab some time with one of us. Until next time, appreciate you guys.